The impression from what you write is that you haven't had a good press. You haven't enjoyed relations with the press. You think the press has misled you, lied to you.
Well,
Is
I think that
an occupational hazard, or do you think you've been really badly treated?
I think it's occupational hazard. I think a lot of the press is very dishonest. I think a lot of the press is really, really dishonest. But I think that I've been totally. You see, most people think I get great publicity. I happen to think I get terrible publicity. So, you know, what can I say?
So, if it weren't for me, you wouldn't even be talking about illegal immigration, Chris. You wouldn't even be talking about it. This was not a subject that was on anybody's mind until I brought it up at my announcement, and I said, Mexico is sending. Except the reporters, because they're a very dishonest lot, generally speaking, in the world of politics, they didn't cover my statement the way I said it.
I'm not looking for credit, but what I don't want is when I raise millions of dollars, have people say, like this sleazy guy right over here from ABC. He's a sleaze in my book. You're a sleaze because you know the facts, and you know the facts well. Go ahead.
All right, I'll check the microphone.
The afternoon of his acceptance speech, Trump did a walkthrough and a mic check.
I love the media.
Well, I was being sarcastic and saying how much we love the media. No, the media has been very dishonest, but we put up with it. But I let people know about it. There's tremendous dishonesty in the media, but I let people know about it.
It's been a mixed blessing for you. The media
It's
been a blessing, and you wouldn't be where you are today
I think
without the
you're right.
media.
Yeah, I think you're right.
How did that work?
And by the way, some are tremendously honest, but you have tremendous dishonesty in the media, tremendous. I've never seen anything like it, more so in the last number of months, I think, than I've ever seen it. With that being said, you have to power through it.
I've been dealing with the press a long time. I think the political press is among the most dishonest people that I've ever met.
The people don't trust you, and the people don't trust the media.
These people back here, they're the worst. They are so dishonest. No, they're so dishonest. And by the way, some of the media is terrific, but most of it, 70%, 75%, is absolute dishonest, absolute scum. Remember that, scum. They're totally dishonest people. By the way, the world's most dishonest people are back there. Look at all the cameras going. Look at all those cameras. Unbelievable. They are dishonest. Most of them, not all of them, but most of them.
And I didn't even apologize to my wife, who's sitting right here, because I didn't do anything. I didn't know any of these women. I didn't see these women. These women, the woman on the plane, the woman, I think they want either fame or her campaign did it. And I think it's her campaign, because when I saw what they did, which is a criminal act, by the way, where they're telling people to go out and start fistfights and start violence. And I'll tell you what, I believe, Chris, that she got these people to step forward. If it wasn't, they get their 10 minutes of fame. But they were all it was all fiction. It was lies and it was fiction.
Let's get to the bigger issue. In 2017, last year, you tweeted this, and I want to quote it accurately. The fake news media is not my enemy, it is the enemy of the American people.
It's true, 100%. Not the media. I'm glad you're finally quoting it correctly, because they like to leave the fake news.
Okay,
out.
but that's what you said.
The fake news. So
but
the people that are supporting me in particular, they're very smart people. They're hardworking, brilliant, great people. They know when the news is fake, and they get angry when they see all of the fakeness. Frankly, the networks.
There have been people who've been critical of other presidents. No president has liked his press coverage. John Kennedy in your Oval Office canceled the subscription to the New York Herald Tribune. Nobody called it the enemy of the American people.
Chris, I'm calling the fake news is the enemy. It's fake. It's phony. The news about me is largely phony. It's false. Even sometimes they'll say, sources say. There is no source in many cases. In many cases.
I think it was disgraceful that the intelligence agencies allowed any information that turned out to be so false and fake out. I think it's a disgrace. And I say that, and that's something that Nazi Germany would have done and did do. I think it's a disgrace. That information that was false and fake and never happened got released to the public. As far as
BuzzFeed, which is a failing pile of garbage, writing it. I think they're going to suffer the consequences. They already are. And as far as CNN going out of their way to build it up, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. No, not you. Not you. Your organization's terrible. Your organization's terrible. Let's go. Go ahead. Quiet. Quiet. Go ahead. She's asking a question. Don't be rude. Don't be rude. Don't be rude. No, I'm not going to give you a question. I'm not going to give you a question. You are fake news. Go ahead.
But the news is fake. I guess I don't understand. It seems that there's a disconnect there. If the information coming from those leaks is real, then how can the stories be fake?
Reporting is fake.
And if I may ask, I just want to ask
Jim, you know what it is? Here's the thing. The public isn't, they read newspapers, they see television, they watch. They don't know if it's true or false because they're not involved. I'm involved. I've been involved with this stuff all my life, but I'm involved. So I know when you're telling the truth or when you're not. I just see many, many untruthful things. And I'll tell you what else I see. I see tone, the word tone. The tone is such hatred. I'm really not a bad person, by the way. No, but the tone is such, I do get good ratings, you have to admit that. The tone is such hatred. Okay? No, that's how I won. I won with news conference and probably speeches. I certainly didn't win by people listening to you people, that's for sure. But I'm having a good time. Tomorrow they will say, Donald Trump rants and raves at the press. I'm not ranting and raving. I'm just telling you, you're dishonest people. But I'm not ranting and raving. I love this. I'm having a good time doing it. But tomorrow the headlines are going to be Donald Trump rants and raves. I'm not ranting and raving. Go ahead.
I may just one more follow-up.
Should I let him have a little bit more? What do you think, Peter? Peter, should I let him have a little bit more? Sit down. Sit down.
Just because of the attack of fake news and attacking our network, I just want to ask you, sir.
I'm changing it from fake news, though.
Doesn't that undermine?
Very fake news.
I know, but aren't you?
I want you all to know that we are fighting the fake news. It's fake, phony, fake. A few days ago, I called the fake news the enemy of the people, and they are. They are the enemy of the people. Because they have no sources, they just make them up when there are none. The dishonest media did not explain that I called the fake news the enemy of the people, the fake news. They dropped off the word fake, and all of a sudden, the story became the media is the enemy. They take the word fake out. And now I'm saying, oh, no, this is no good. But that's the way they are. So I'm not against the media. I'm not against the press. I don't mind bad stories if I deserve them. And I tell you, I love good stories, but we won't go. But I am only against the fake news media or press. Fake, fake. They have to leave that word. I'm against the people that make up stories and make up sources. They shouldn't be allowed to use sources unless they use somebody's name. Let their name be put out there. A source says that Donald Trump is a horrible, horrible human being. Let him say it to my face. Let there be no more sources.
I think what CNN did was unfortunate for them. As you know now, they have some pretty serious problems. They have been fake news for a long time. They've been covering me in a very dishonest way. Do you have that also, by the way, Mr. President? But CNN and others, I mean, others. NBC is equally as bad, despite the fact that I made them a fortune with The Apprentice, but they forgot that. But I will say that CNN has really taken it too seriously, and I think they've hurt themselves very badly, very, very badly. And what we want to see in the United States is honest, beautiful, free, but honest press. We want to see fair press. I think it's a very important thing. We don't want fake news. And by the way, not everybody is fake news, but we don't want fake news. Bad thing, very bad for our country.
President, can you explain why you did not condemn those hate groups by name over the weekend?
They've been condemned. They have been condemned.
And why are we not having a press conference today? You said on Friday we'd have a press conference.
We had a press conference. We just had a press conference.
Can we ask you some more questions?
It doesn't bother me at all, but I like real news, not fake news. You're fake news. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Mr. President, since you attacked CNN, can I ask you a question?
John Roberts, go ahead, John. No. John Roberts, go ahead. CNN's fake news. I don't take questions. I don't take questions from CNN. CNN is fake news. I don't take questions from CNN. John Roberts of Fox. Let's go to a real. Let's go to a real network. John, let's go.
Well, we're a real network too, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President.
There has never been, and even these people back here, these horrible, horrendous people, even these people back there, look at it. It looks like the Academy Awards. There's so many. You ever see this? Is this the Academy Awards you're doing? So here was the story by the fake news. The president was 15 minutes late for the Queen. Wrong. And then here's the rest of the story. No, here's the rest. Here's the rest of the story. So they said I was late when I was actually early, number one. Number two, I guess the meeting was scheduled for 15 minutes, and it lasted for almost an hour. The president overstayed. So I was late and I overstayed, and honestly, folks, it was such a beautiful, beautiful visit and afternoon. But they can make anything bad because they are the fake, disgusting news. Just stick with us. Don't believe the crap you see from these people, the fake news. And just remember, what you're seeing and what you're reading is not what's happening. You know why we need the people, don't you? Because we have hundreds of companies moving in. We need the people.
They're hundreds of miles away, though. They're hundreds and hundreds of
You know
miles
what?
away. That's
I
not
think
an
you
invasion.
should, honestly, you know
miles
what?
away.
I
That's
think
not an
you
invasion.
should, honestly, I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN.
All right.
And if you did it well, your ratings
Let
would
me
be
ask,
much
if
better.
I may
Okay,
ask
that's
one other
enough.
question, Mr. President. I was
That's
going
enough.
to ask one of the other folks.
That's
have had-
enough.
Pardon me, ma'am. Mr.
Excuse
President,
me, that's enough.
Mr. President, I had one other
Peter,
question,
let's
if
go.
I may ask, on the Russia investigation. Are you concerned that you may have?
I'm not concerned
indictments-
about anything with
that you
the
may have
Russian
indictments coming down?
investigation because it's a hoax.
Are you-
That's enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this investigation?
Mr. President.
I'll tell you what, CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN. Go ahead.
I think that's unfair.
You're a very rude person. The way you treat Sarah Huckabee is horrible. And the way you treat other people are horrible. You shouldn't treat people that way. Go ahead. Go ahead, Peter, go ahead.
In Jim's defense, I've traveled with him and watched him. He's a diligent reporter who busts his
Well, I'm
butt
not a
like the
big
rest
fan
of
of
us.
yours either, so
I understand.
to be honest.
So let me ask you a question if I can. You repeatedly
You
said,
aren't the best.
Mr. President, you repeatedly, over the course
Okay,
of the...
just sit down, please. Well, when you report fake news, when you report fake news, which CNN does a lot, you are the enemy of the people. Go. Well, I'll give you I will give you voter suppression. You just have to sit down, please. Sit down. I didn't call you. I'll give you voter suppression. Take a look at the CNN polls, how inaccurate they were. That's called voter suppression. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I'm not responding. I'm responding to. Excuse me. I'm not responding to you. I'm talking to this gentleman. Will you please sit down? Excuse me. Would you please sit down? Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now that the House of
Very
Representatives
hostile.
has fled,
It's such a hostile media. It's so sad. You ask me about. No, you rudely interrupted him. Go ahead.
What do you say to your critics who say that you are creating a national emergency, that you're concocting a national emergency here in order to get your wall because you couldn't get it through other ways?
Moms, what do you think? Do you think I'm creating something? Ask these incredible women who lost their daughters and their sons.
This is real.
Okay? Because your question is a very political question because you have an agenda. You're CNN. You're fake news. You have an agenda. The numbers that you gave are wrong.
Is there better internal polling as it relates to your life?
No, because we have great internal polling. They were fake polls that were released by somebody that is, it's ridiculous. No, we are winning in every single state that we've polled. We're winning in Texas very big. We're winning in Ohio very big. We're winning in Florida very big. They were fake polls that were either put out by the corrupt media, because much of the media in this country, unfortunately, is corrupt. I have to tell you that, Mr. President. And some of it is excellent, but some is very bad.
Some of your advisors say there is concern. Is that inaccurate?
No, they're not advisors. It's fake news. You don't understand what I'm saying. Those advisors don't exist. They don't exist. It's made up by the newspapers. It's fake news.
In preparation for this trip, we went out and talked to a lot of voters here in Iowa, supporters of yours.
Right.
And a lot of them say they voted for you, they're proud of you, they're going to vote for you again, most of them. And they wish you'd cut back on the tweets.
At times with his tweets, I wonder sometimes he's overreacts.
I think he could tone down some of his rhetoric and his tweets and so forth.
It's the tweets. The things it's just not necessary.
I have a very unfair press. It's a fake news. It's a corrupt news. If I don't use social media, I do not get the word out. I put it out, and then it goes onto your platform. I put one out this morning, and as soon as I pressed the button, they said, we have breaking news. Every network, every station, we have breaking news. They read my tweet. Why is that bad?
What they're talking about, though, is you calling people names, it's demeaning.
Well, you know what? I'll bet they do like it. They may tell you that, but I'll bet they like it, you know?
Already sent out 3 tweets this morning, and I'm usually at my desk around between 6:30 and 7 when they start to come in. It seems like you're very conscious of you're going to set the news for the day before all of us do.
Yeah, I don't think of it that way. It obviously didn't work because I watched your show this morning. I watched Good Morning America, and they had something about the polling. And it's really suppression polling, it's fake polling, but in that case it was just made up polling. And I had the same thing made up. I mean, they give you phony numbers. They give you numbers. They said that they have access to numbers, which I don't believe they have access to. They want to suppress the minds of people so they don't bother going out and voting.
You think there's a real conspiracy?
No, I think it's just a bad group of people. It shouldn't be allowed, but that's no different than the fake news. And the fake news is at a level that it's never been at before. For instance, on Good Morning America today, they had that phony polling information. I explained to you last night that it was phony, but you didn't do anything about it. You should have, but it was late in the evening and perhaps you didn't get a chance.
I've studied those polls. I've heard the explanations for them.
Ultimately, it doesn't matter.
But why does it bother you so much?
Because it's untrue. I like the truth. You know, I'm actually a very honest guy. If I thought they were correct, I wouldn't be complaining at all. I understand that. It's like the witch hunt that goes on. No collusion with Russia. There was no collusion. And what bothers me...
As you know, that's not what Robert Mueller found.
It said no collusion. You know what? Nobody even brings Russia up anymore. What bothers me is when you did nothing wrong and they have a phony witch hunt. That bothers me.
You're here right now. You are President of the United States. Yet it seems like you just feel this need to push back at perceived enemies.
No, at false stories, at fake news. Nobody has any idea how corrupt the media is. They're corrupt. Not all of it, fortunately, but the media is corrupt. So this morning and last night, my comms people came to me. Listen to this one, President. I'm glad they're interested in Finland, but what can you do? I'm interested in Finland, much more. But my comms people came to me and they said, sir, there's a book or something being written, and it's written by Washington Post people, so you know it's inaccurate. You know it's probably a fraud. Came to me, the comms people, they came to me yesterday, and they said, did you say this? I said, why are you asking that stupid question? Because the fake news media is saying that you said this in a book. I said, what book? And they said, Washington Post. They said, well, obviously it's fake because almost everything the Washington Post does is fake. It's a fake newspaper. It's owned by a rich guy for the purposes of giving him power in Washington. It's really, I mean, it's a lobbyist. I call it the lobbyist Washington Post for Amazon, and he ought to be ashamed of himself because what they do to his reputation, I think maybe it's probably no good anyway, but what they do to his reputation with the Washington Post is a disgrace.
But the question, sir, was what did you want President Zelensky to do about Vice President Biden and his son Hunter?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, it was just a follow-up of what I just asked you, sir.
Listen, you ready?
We have the president of Finland. Ask him a question.
I have one for him. I just wanted to follow up on the one that I asked you, which
Did
was,
you hear
what
me?
did you want
Did you
him
hear
to
me?
Yes,
Ask
sir.
him a question.
I will, but
I've given you a long answer. Ask this gentleman a question. Don't be rude.
No, sir, I don't want to be rude. I just wanted you to have a chance to answer the question that I asked
I've
you.
answered everything. It's a whole hoax. And you know who's playing into the hoax? People like you and the fake news media that we have in this country. And I say in many cases, the corrupt media, because you're corrupt. Much of the media in this country is not just fake, it's corrupt. And you have some very fine people, too. Great journalists, great reporters. But to a large extent, it's corrupt and it's fake. Ask the president of Finland a question, please.
Okay, I'll move on now.